Brought to you by KFC, Ray and Nephew, Chris and Charles.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News for Saturday, January 25, 2025. I am Carolyn Brown. Thanks so much for staying with us following our live coverage of the Sunshine Girls versus South Africa matchup. Of course, congratulations to the girls. With the Westmoreland Police proclaiming a decrease in criminal activity, the Prime Minister is applauding their approach, pointing to an effective crime strategy. Here's more from Courtney Lewis.
The Prime Minister is lauding the work of the police in Westmoreland. During a visit to the parish recently, PM Holness highlighted effectiveness of what he describes as a detailed and tactical crime plan.
So they are being very strategic, very granular in their approach, and it is without question that it is having an effect. We look very carefully on the parish of Westmoreland because you will recall that in the last 4 or 5 years, Westmoreland was one of the areas that contributed significantly to the high murder rate nationally. And we developed a plan, a very strategic plan that focused on the kind of kinetic operations. But then in parallel to that, we put in place a zone of special operation. We had several other interventions and significant social interventions, and those have also worked.
The police report a 21% reduction in shootings and a 54% reduction in robberies, with increased ammunition seizures. They have also implemented a series of targeted intelligence operations, which the PM says is beneficial for communities.
So it's not abrasive to the population. It's really targeted at those people who are committing the crimes, committing the murders, those persons who are really causing grief and terror to the citizens.
It's part of a larger mission to ramp up community policing, highlighting criminals and separating them from law-abiding citizens to prevent gang recruitment.
Because what the criminals try to do is to enlist the citizens in their enterprise and use the citizens as cover. And it becomes very difficult to police when you arrest someone and then the community comes out to defend a criminal. But if from the start you are policing in such a way that the citizens realize that you are on their side, that you are protecting them, then it makes it easier for the communities to separate themselves from the criminal.
He maintains that the continued transformation of the security force will make policing easier.
As officers, how you carry yourselves, your decorum, your deportment, how you deal with the citizens with respect, that I'm certain will further entrench the security forces here as a force for good and a protector, and your job will become that much easier as the criminals see here as not a place that they will have a safe haven.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
The dancehall culture has long been used in political campaigns over the decades. But with the lewd content in some songs, critics have lashed out about the appropriateness of going live on political platforms. Adrian Williams reports.
As the political landscape heats up, so are campaign meetings and rallies. This time in Southwest St. Anne, where Danishka Williams is the PNP's standard bearer there. Popular acts such as Popcorn and Chronic Law brought a different energy than similar meetings, but the rollout was not with controversy, as expletives were hurled by artists during the segment. Popcorn eventually apologized.
I know that my supporters hear what we have planned, and then when we were finished, we had 10 to 15 minutes of performances. So, I mean, the bulk of it was what we plan to do for the constituency and when we form the next government.
Professor of Culture, Gender and Society, Donna Hope, weighed in on the matter, saying the performances were appropriate for the setting.
And so for the live performance of the various artists, no one had an issue when the few words came out. As a matter of fact, what happened was that I saw Popcorn trying to remind artists each time they kind of segued off into the live performance and forgot that they were not to use an expletive. You'd pull away the mic.
She went on to say, however, that there should be proper attention paid to the music culture after the fact.
The challenge I always have as a person who works very assiduously with dancehall actors at different levels is that there is usually the utilization of dancehall lyrics and or artists at that level in the political campaigning. But then when it's time to do policy, to put mechanisms in place to benefit the culture, people are hesitant and the conversations abound around how, violent and erotic and all of that vulgar that dancehall culture and the music is.
Williams highlighted that the artist's appearance was a show of support.
I paid nobody to perform at the conference. These are my friends who I've known for years who've come out to support me. So take off the entertainment hat or the entertainer hat that they wear, and they're looking and they're saying, "Little Danishka," and they're coming to support me.
Williams goes up against Member of Parliament Xavier Main. Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
New justices and lay magistrates continue to be cautioned against falling into disrepute with the law. The president of the Court of Appeal recently cautioned an incoming batch in Manchester. Courtney Lewis has the details.
As the judiciary welcomes newly minted justices of the peace and lay magistrates in Manchester, the head of the Court of Appeal is making a renewed call for integrity within the justice system. The message is a timely one as the country continues to rank 69th of 180 countries on the Corruption Perceptions Index.
Judicial ethics must be the horse that drives the carriage of justice, peace, and good governance in which we're all involved as justice professionals.
Justice Bishop says the duty of care goes beyond the bench and is necessary for restorative justice and conflict resolution.
By providing a calm and impartial presence that respects the rights of every individual who comes to you for assistance, you help to de-escalate, or you ought to help to de-escalate tensions, facilitate dialogue, ensuring that disputes are resolved amicably and constructively.
But the legal pioneer says no real game is won if not played by the rules.
We ought not to hear that fraudulent documents are in litigation, and when you look at them, they were forged, but the forged signature was witnessed by a justice of the peace. Where does that put you?
Bishop gave a vote of confidence in reaffirming the mandate of service to the country.
We have no need for corrupt practices because all of us have approached the bench as a calling. Our motivation is not money, but service to humanity to the best of our abilities.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
To this follow-up now, in a bid to create a cleaner space at the Church Corner dump site in St. Thomas, the National Solid Waste Management Authority has started to transfer garbage from that location. Adrian Williams has been tracking that story.
Additional actions to clean up the parish of St. Thomas are underway with the transfer of garbage from the Church Corner dump site in the parish to Riverton City in Kingston. But how are the people who make a living from sifting through the site in search of value? One worker shared his views.
Well, we have to find a way out because we used to find it when the dump wasn't here. You understand? So it may slower, but we still have to go find a way because we have to eat, we have to drink, and we have people and kids have to go to school. Yeah, it's a big blow.
He says the move is a good one to polish the image of the Pearl of the East.
This project is big and very big, famous are like a new man in the thing as a new mayor. So we have to say that's because lots of people go in politics 20, 30 years, they don't do nothing.
Executive Director for the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, Audley Gordon, says while many view the site as an eyesore, the concern of pickers is something they cannot ignore.
Try to work out with them an arrangement that allows them to survive without creating conflicts for what we are trying to do in terms of managing a disposal site. I know it's not the ideal situation, but right now, that is the least of our problem, quite frankly.
Another worker at the dump site offered a different perspective on what he thinks development should look like in the parish.
The money with them I give it $3,000 a day, man, not supposed to have less than $15,000 or $10,000 a day, the least, brother. Because the crisis and the prices we are running Jamaica right now, they're devastated, and the economical standard well low. You understand? We can't find food, we never have land. We need land. Since each and every man supposed to have at least 2 or 3 acres of land. When can go in pig, or in goat, or in banana, or whatever type of agriculture produce they want to grow.
Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
And we go now to our regional and international roundup.
We begin with news in the region. U.S. President Donald Trump, in signing executive orders that will see mass deportations, could possibly affect prisons in Belize, according to Police Commissioner Chester Williams, who spoke to Love FM Belize about the protocols in dealing with wanted deportees.
Obviously, we have heard the news from the new President of the United States that they'll be rounding up people and they'll be sending them back home. So we are expecting that, yes, certain people will be brought back home. And as I've said before, there are some of these people who are wanted by the police for crimes they have been accused of committing, and we're waiting for them. Once they land at the airport, we'll be there to receive them, and they go through the process. Once you get a deportee coming in, we get a notice that the deportee will be coming in on certain flights. And that information comes to me. I send that information to GI3. GI3 then goes to the airport and meet that person when they get off the flight. That person is then taken into an office, interviewed by immigration. From there, they're brought to Belize City to the GI3 office, where they go through the process as a deportee. They'll be issued a letter instructing them that they're to report to the police station in the area where they reside, either once or twice a week for a certain period of time. If it is that they are to change their address while they are reporting, they have an obligation to ensure that they report to the police that they have changed their address. If, as a part of that deportee process as well, they are not supposed to hang out with any person who are of criminal background.
In Ghana, the Ministry of Education is currently designing an autism school, as a rise in diagnoses for children with autism and intellectual disorders were recorded in the last 4 years. Assistant Chief Education Officer Dr. Keon Chung provided further insight into the prevalence and types of disabilities being addressed. More from Newsroom Guyana.
The most prevalent disability for the last 4 years is intellectual disability, and the second most prevalent would be that of autism spectrum disorders, and that is followed by learning disabilities, specific learning disabilities.
Dr. Chung also believes that awareness of disabilities have greatly increased, and that has led to a rise in diagnosis. Dr. Chung explained that the Special Education Needs Diagnostic and Treatment Center assesses students and provides diagnosis that informs support.
Children in the mainstream, in the public system rather, have the opportunity of being assessed at the Special Education Needs Diagnostic and Treatment Center. And once they have a diagnosis, some of them or all of them who have a diagnosis have what you call an IEP, an individual education plan. For those who do not yet have an individual education plan, what they have is a learner profile. The learner profile like
And that's it for news. We'll take a fast break ahead of Orville Higgins with sports.